Hello, welcome to Hunterdon Art Museum. My name is Ruth Marshall and I am the artist responsible for the artwork in the exhibition Knitting the Endangered. So I just want to tell you a little bit about the exhibition. One of the important things that I want you to know is that apart from the two jaguars, all the other artworks in the show are based on individual animals, which means, for instance, one of my personal favorite pieces in the show is Ocelot 6. This artwork was based on an actual pelt that I studied at the American Museum of Natural History in New York. And that pelt was of this little cat that was running around a New York City zoo about 100 years ago. And that's what she looked like. So I really felt a strong connection to this piece. The actual specimen was very well preserved. She had really thick fur, and her fur was a very unusual sort of color. And she also had really beautiful sprinkle of rosettes all over her pelt. And I just felt really connected to this specimen somehow. So it's interesting for me, and hopefully for you as well, to think about what it was like for this individual little cat to be living in New York City 100 years ago. Another example of an individual in this show is the artwork called Askai. This is based on a snow leopard that is actually still alive and is living at Central Park Zoo in New York City. So you could actually go and visit Askai and see how alive and beautiful he is, and what a great job he does as an ambassador for his species. So again, that's one of the ideas that I think is really special about this show, that these are sort of like individual portraits in a way. And they can, and their story, these little animals' stories, can help illustrate the context of the times that we live in and the times that they live or lived in. Another example of that is the Russian tiger piece. This is based on a female tiger that lived in Russia decades ago, I believe in the 1930s, and she is also a specimen at the American Museum of Natural History. She was taken from the wild as part of a sanctioned expedition by the museum in order to collect specimens for the museum. Now, today, that sort of context just does not work very well. Wildlife scientists wouldn't dream of taking a healthy female tiger from the wild because they are much too rare, and they are so important to propagate their species in the wild and create little tiger babies. So that sort of situation would never be legal today. I just want to talk a little bit about the way that I work. All of the pieces in the show were created from life-size charts that are made up of gridded paper that I glued together, made up of all these little squares, and the squares proportionally equal the gauge of the yarn that I use to hand knit them. So what that means is that For museum specimens that I study, I lay out the specimen on top of the chart, I trace an outline, I make a drawing in pencil of all the particular markings of that pelt and try to size them and proportion them and space them correctly so that it's a truthful interpretation of that pelt. And I do that for the zoo animals as well, but in living zoo animals as well. But in that case, I work from like hundreds of photographs of different angles of that animal's body that I then try to interpret into a pelt. So everything is drawn out on the chart, I draw everything in pencil, and then everything is coloured in according to what colour yarn I wish to use, and then I knit directly from that chart, and each little square on the chart represents one stitch and one colour. So as you can imagine, many of the pieces take months to create. The very large tiger that is nailed to the wall parallel to the ocelots, I believe that's tiger hashtag 70374 or some number like that. In any case, that very large tiger, that took me 4 months to complete. One of the things I would really like visitors to take away from the show is like an appreciation of Mother Nature's designs and how beautiful these animals are. And it would be fantastic if visitors also went away wanting to learn more about how they can help conserve these endangered species. All of the artworks in the show are based on animals that are endangered, except for the 2 Tasmanian tigers, because they are already extinct and have been for several decades. So I really do believe that each one of us can make decisions in our everyday lives to help our planet and to help us help other creatures that live on this planet to survive. I do think that if we make careful choices about what we eat, what products we buy, how we recycle food and products, for instance, that we can make a difference in how we help this planet, this very special planet that we live on, and how we can help to tread a softer footprint so that we can live alongside with other sentient creatures on this planet successfully. So, keeping that thought in mind, I am running a workshop on March the 30th, and I am going to teach people how to recycle your plastic bags and how to actually recycle your plastic bags so that you can make yarn out of those bags and crochet with it. This is called PLAN, plastic yarn. And so in the workshop I will be teaching you how to create PLAN, how to crochet with PLAN, and how to create a string grocery bag that you can put your purchases in from supermarkets or stores.